It was a cold autumn night in 1977 when Officer Linda Carter, dedicated young cop with only 3 years on the force, signed on for what was supposed to be a routine patrol shift along the California coastline. She was known for her sharp instincts, kind heart, and tireless commitment to protecting her small community. But that night, Linda never made it back to the station. Her patrol car was found abandoned near a scenic overlook, doors locked, radio silent, and no signs of a struggle. She had simply vanished. For over a decade, her disappearance haunted everyone who knew her. Rumors spread. Some thought she had run away. Others believed she'd been targeted for something she uncovered. Her family, fellow officers, and the town were left with nothing but questions and fading hope. The case eventually went cold, buried under stacks of unsolved files and fading memories. Then, 13 years later, a team of divers exploring the rocky ocean cliffs just miles from where Linda was last seen made a startling discovery beneath the waves. What they found would crack open the mystery that had lingered for over a decade and raise even more questions than answers. Could this finally be the clue that explains what really happened to Officer Linda Carter? Stay with us as we uncover the strange trail that led to this moment and explore the secrets hidden beneath the surface. The truth may have been underwater all along. Officer Linda Carter wasn't just another face in uniform. She was deeply rooted in her community, always volunteering, helping kids cross the street, and even known by name at nearly every shop. In town, she had recently been assigned to a new patrol route that ran along the remote coastal cliffs, a quiet stretch that often saw more tourists than trouble. But Linda had mentioned something odd to her sister just days before she disappeared, something about unfamiliar cars parked near the cliffs late at night, and how she felt like someone might have been watching her. At the time, no one thought much of it. But after she vanished, those small comments started to feel like warnings. Investigators combed the area for days. They found no signs of a struggle, no broken glass, no footprints, nothing that suggested where she went. Her last radio check-in was calm and routine, then silence. When her car was discovered parked neatly near the edge of the cliff, theories began swirling. Some said it was an accident, that maybe the winds or the waves had taken her. Others believed she had uncovered something. She shouldn't have something that cost her her life. Despite hundreds of tips and hours of searching, the trail went cold. It wasn't until those divers stumbled upon an old, rusted object deep below the waves, far below where anyone had looked, that the pieces began to shift. But even then, what they found only deepened the mystery. Something down there didn't belong. When the divers brought the object to the surface, it looked like nothing more than a piece of corroded metal. But once cleaned, they realized it was part of a police radio still bearing the serial number that matched Officer Linda Carter's unit. It had been buried under layers of sand and rock, hidden deep in a narrow crevice beneath the ocean cliff. That discovery reignited interest in the case and pulled the community right back into the mystery that had never truly let go. Detectives reopened the file, and this time they started asking harder questions. One of the original officers on the 1977 investigation had since retired, but he agreed to an interview. He revealed something strange. There had been reports of suspicious activity in the area weeks before Linda vanished, including unmarked vans and late-night calls to the station that were never properly followed up. He admitted, quietly, that some parts of the investigation had been rushed. Linda's sister, Karen, who had never stopped searching for answers, began her own digging. She uncovered an old notebook Linda kept at home full of handwritten notes and license plate numbers she had jotted down. Some of those plates matched names tied to a now-defunct construction company that had been operating near the cliffs at the time. Meanwhile, whispers began to surface about a second officer, one who had abruptly transferred out of the area just months after Linda's disappearance. It had never been questioned. Until now, as the investigation picked up again. More pieces started falling into place, but they didn't bring answers, only more questions. The officer who had transferred out suddenly in late 1977 was tracked down living in another state. Retired and living quietly under a different last name. When approached, he appeared visibly shaken at the mention of Linda Carter. He denied knowing anything at first, but a week later, he attempted to contact Karen anonymously, leaving a voicemail that simply said, "You're getting too close. Stop digging." The message was traced, but the number had already been disconnected. Detectives started to suspect there had been a cover-up, one possibly involving more than just a missing officer. Old property records revealed that the now-defunct construction company had been working on a private coastal development project in the same area Linda patrolled. That project was abruptly shut down just months after her disappearance, with no official explanation. Several permits had signatures from people who no longer existed in any records. Karen, meanwhile, grew more determined. She followed one of the names from her sister's notebook to an old employee who worked on that construction crew. He was reluctant to talk, but after some pressure, he finally admitted there were things they were told not to question, especially when it came to that female cop asking too many things. Then came the most chilling moment. Another dive led to the discovery of what appeared to be a sealed container wedged into the rock below the cliffside. Authorities were called immediately. Inside, they found something no one was ready for. When the sealed container was finally opened by forensic specialists, what they uncovered left the entire team speechless. Inside were personal items that had clearly belonged to Officer Linda Carter: a wristwatch with her initials engraved on the back, a torn piece of her uniform, and most disturbing of all, a small notebook wrapped in plastic. It matched the handwriting from her home journal, but this one was different. This one was filled with names, dates, and short, urgent messages like "Meeting by Cliffs, don't trust backup, and they know I saw the plans." The contents pointed to something far larger than a random disappearance. It seemed Linda had discovered something illegal, possibly connected to the coastal construction project, and maybe even involving people inside her own department. The handwriting in the final pages grew increasingly frantic, suggesting she believed she was being followed. One name in particular kept appearing: J. Granger. A search of the old police rosters revealed that name belonged to a now-deceased detective who had overseen part of Linda's original case. But just as detectives prepared to re-interview people tied to the project, a fire broke out in the archive room where the 1977 construction permits were being stored. Dozens of boxes most related to the coastal development were lost in the flames. The cause? Undetermined. Someone, even after all these years, didn't want the truth to come out. And now Karen wasn't just chasing her sister's past, she was walking straight into the shadowy path Linda had left behind. Weeks after the archive fire, Karen received a package in the mail with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, faded, clearly old, showing Linda standing near the cliffs, talking to a man in plain clothes. On the back, in shaky handwriting, were the words, **, he never acted alone." The man in the photo wasn't Detective Granger. He was identified as a private contractor who had worked security for the coastal project and later disappeared overseas. That led authorities to a breakthrough: bank records hidden under shell companies, tracing large payments made shortly before Linda vanished. One of those accounts linked back to a former police official, someone who had been celebrated for decades. With new warrants and pressure mounting, he finally confessed. Linda had uncovered an illegal land deal involving law enforcement, private contractors, and falsified permits. When she threatened to report it, they made her disappear. She was lured to the cliffs under the pretense of backup support and forced over the edge. The sealed container had been planted as a backup plan, something Linda hid in case she didn't make it. But just as Karen thought she had all the answers, a second envelope arrived, this time with a recent photo. A woman, older now, walking along a beach in South America. The resemblance to Linda was uncanny. No official record, no ID, just a timestamp from 2 months earlier. The case was closed. But the question still lingered. What if Linda Carter never died at all? The photo from South America shook everything Karen thought she knew. She handed it over to authorities, but there was no traceable identity, no travel records, nothing concrete to prove it was Linda. Still, Karen couldn't let it go. She flew down herself, visiting coastal towns and asking quiet questions, hoping for a glimpse, a clue, anything. But after weeks of searching, she found nothing. Just quiet waves and unfamiliar faces. Back home, the confession from the retired police official led to renewed investigations. Several others connected to the cover-up were brought in for questioning. Some denied involvement, others lawyered up. While most legal action came too late due to time and lack of evidence, the truth was finally out. Linda Carter had been silenced for trying to do the right thing, and the community now knew the price she paid.